Joining us now on episode number 96 is our good friends from the Essential Wrestling Podcast, the host Karl and his compadre John Smith. Fellas, good to see you. And how are things on your side of the river? It looks as if that Al is cleaning off all of those dusty Super Bowl rings.
Joe, I am so sorry. I've been really busy lately. The end of August every year. You're right. I polish up my Super Bowl ring. There's 6 of them. Like, it takes a while to do. I'm sorry. I ran out of time. I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna be. This is the new one I got. That's the good one right there. That's the.
I wouldn't get those things wet, Al.
Yeah. Wouldn't exactly say that they're the real thing. Yes.
John Smith, good to see you, my friend. How are things on your side of the river?
Oh, can't complain. Went to the Jets-Falcons game the other day. I was sitting 7 rows back from the Falcons bench, actually. But holy crap, Kyle Pitts is like a different human. You know, he just stuck out like a sore thumb amongst all the other guys. I was like, who is that? Oh, that's Kyle Pitts. I thought he had like a neck roll on. No, that was just his traps. It was crazy. Towering over everybody. You know, that's a guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer one day, I think.
Well, the positive about that game, John, was that, you know, it was 16-0 at the end of the first half, and then the Falcons put on their best 28-3 impression by falling 24-16.
Yeah, too bad it was our second and third stringers that got the job done. You know, I mean, we didn't really start too many of our starters in the first place.
That's this one.
Ugh.
Unbelievable.
Is that the one that Revis won for you?
What's that?
Is that the one that Revis won for you?
I don't know. The part that upsets me is I should have 3 more. The part that upsets me.
Well, actually 2 more, because Super Bowl 52. Please stop that. Mike Szabo, good to see you, sir. How are things on your side of Long Island?
Doing well. Enjoyed this week. Getting to see Paul O'Neill get his number retired on Saturday. So on Sunday actually. So that was really good to go see at the stadium. And I might have just started a win streak over there in the Bronx.
Look at you. You know what? Like I said, I actually got a phone call today, from this season ticket representative from the Yankees, and he says, "Oh yeah, it looks like you bought tickets a long time ago," which I never bought tickets ever. I've only bought, single game tickets. And he says, yeah, for a massive discount. And that was the word that was used in the text message, and the voicemail was massive. Yeah, just for $22,000, you could definitely get a 20 game package. And I thought about forwarding it to you, Mike, because, now you are the big guy at Yankee Stadium now. You got them to win. Good job.
Yeah,
you got $22,000 to spare.
That kind of money. All the juju doesn't come with the money, though. I wish it went hand in hand.
Yeah. Well, back here, ladies and gentlemen, for episode number 96, our 2022 NFC and AFC East previews. And of course, we will be starting with the AFC East and the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. But guys, let's get things started with the New York Jets. Things have been looking a little bit downward following Zach Wilson's injury in Philadelphia. But Joe Flacco and Mike White look potentially they might be able to get things done here in the interim. And oddly enough, or ironically enough, if you will, Joe Flacco is going to be starting against his former team come the first week of the season. John Smith, what do you think about that?
When Zach Wilson first went down, my first thought was, oh, thank God. Because I have not been on board with this guy. I don't think that he's any good. And he threw that awful interception before he blew his knee out, or almost blew his knee out. And my first thought was Flacco can get the ball to Elijah Moore. He could get the ball to Garrett Wilson, our new guy. He could get it to what's his freaking name? Corey Davis.
Corey Davis, yeah.
Yeah, and now, with the addition of Breece Hall, I think Flacco is going to be a perfect game manager with these guys, and with these three legit tight ends we have, or 2 legit tight ends and the rookie, Ruckert. I think the offense will be hitting on all cylinders with Flacco behind center, and I can't say that for Wilson, unfortunately.
Wow, that says something, Mike Szabo, because a lot of people love what Zach Wilson has brought. I mean, I know a lot of moms in the area love what he's brought, but it makes no sense to me. that, it's this man was picked for the future. Joe Flacco is going to be the starter. Does he have the future? Or is he the future, rather? How many quarterbacks have the Jets gone through? It's a disaster. Is he the guy? What do we see here, Mike?
I think he's shown flashes. I think year one showed you some flashes. He clearly was hurt by a couple injuries later on. But I think he showed some flashes last year. The Jets were a little bit more competitive than they were in previous years, but wind up getting on the wrong side of a lot of games, 4-13 record. But I think Wilson has some flashes, and I think you mentioned how much that the Jets have gone through quarterbacks. I think in the long term, I think they got to see it out a little bit with Wilson and really give it a go. I think they do have something there. I like Salah at the helm. I think he brings a good energy and a good culture that the team has needed for a very long time. And I just think we're gonna have to find out about Wilson later on in the season. This was the year you really want him, year two, to really start taking a jump. He's year two with Salah and this new regime. How's it all going to start coming together? Familiarity with each other now, and now you can start building this year and really taking a step forward. And now you're really sort of having a big dent in that right away. He's not having a clean bill of health once again this year and all of that sort of stuff. So you might and especially if there are any setbacks with his injury, you might wind up having some analysis on him this year, a little bit murky, which does not help the Jets long term. I do agree with the Joe Flacco assessment that in the meantime, I think he can game manage pretty well. But the long term, of course, for 2022 was, does Zach Wilson have what it takes? I think we've seen it in flashes, but I think the analysis can become murky with his injury.
Al, is it going to be Mike White time soon? Or is it going to actually be Joe Flacco where he might be able to really get the job done in the interim for Zach Wilson?
Well, no, neither of them are going to get the job done. The New York Jets. But Joe Flacco is probably the safest thing you can possibly do. First of all, I hate Joe Flacco. And the reason why is because he's good and he's tormented me a couple years. So I don't like him because he's bad or this, that, and the other. But, yeah, Flacco can hand the ball off. Flacco can hit the slant routes. Flacco's been doing – he threw it deep years ago. I don't know if he can still do it now. But he'll get you to get Zach Wilson back. Pending injury, obviously. I don't know how the Jets' offensive line is this year. But, yeah, I mean, when Zach Wilson gets the team back, they're going to be owing whatever, and it's going to be no problem. And it's like, okay, Zach Wilson, still show us what you got, and then we'll see what happens from there. And I agree with Mike. I actually like Robert Saleh a lot. I thought that was a huge pickup for the Jets. That upset me, honestly. I'm like, oh, I like that guy. Why is he going to the Jets? But it was because you can tell when he was on the sideline for the 49ers, his players are high. You could tell he was a players guy, which I know doesn't always work. But for the Niners, it did work. And for that team, it did work huge because they had a no-nonsense defense, a very good defense. And I think Saleh can translate that. Like, I don't expect, I'll sit here and laugh all day long at the Jets and their misery, but I don't. If Saleh does what I think he can do, I'm not going to be laughing for too much longer. I think they can be 500 within maybe the next 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, you see a tight end. They got CJ Uzomah as well. But you brought up, Al, about that offensive line that took yet another hit. And John, it's so tough because Mekhi Becton has played, I don't know how many games. I don't even know if he's played any games. It's been a couple, if any. Another injury. I think he played 5 or 6 games last season, and then he got hurt again. And then he's gone now. The positive thing though is that general manager Joe Douglas was able to pry Dwayne Brown out of pretty much almost retirement. So that's a positive, and we know what Dwayne Brown can bring to an offensive line because he did it not only in Houston, but also he was traded to Seattle for an absolute king's ransom to protect Russell Wilson's blind side for a few years. So, now he's going to be protecting Joe Flacco's side, and who knows? Obviously, Mekhi Becton is one of the, is another freak of nature, as we were talking about with Kyle Pitts earlier. Very, obviously massive, big body, but again, piggybacking off of what Al said about doesn't know how the offensive line is, here it is. perfect follow-up. This offensive line has continued to take hits over and over and over again, and it affects numerous aspects of the offense, whether it be the running game, the passing game, whatever it is. Obviously, you're not too fond of Zach Wilson. You don't believe in him, but is this Mekhi Becton loss so huge that they can't get it done? And is Dwayne Brown too old to be able to protect the blind side for I guess Flacco and White and potentially Wilson when he comes back?
Well, first off, Dwayne Brown was a Pro Bowler last year, so
Yeah.
unless he's been eating Twinkies all summer, I feel like he should be at least 85% of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had George Fant at left tackle with Becton at right,
Yep.
and they moved Fant back over to the right side because Dwayne Brown's only ever played on the left side.
Yep.
As far as Becton's concerned, he had a great first year, but the guy could never keep his weight down, and I feel like this is going to be an issue forever with him. So, it's better that it happened when it did than it happening week 3. And Dwayne Brown's already on some other team. Now he can mesh with the line for over a month before the season starts. And they're already ranked like the 13th best overall offensive line for whatever that means. I don't even know who ranks them like that, but I like our blocking tight ends. Uzomah and Conklin are both really good blockers. Yeah. So they'll get help from them, and we'll have a great running attack with Breece Hall. I think. We got Michael Carter also in the backfield, so we got a two-headed monster, and I expect big things from Breece Hall this year. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and Mike, the whole thing too with this offensive line too, so many issues. Mekhi Becton was highly touted the last couple of years. He's hurt again. They're trying to pick and choose and really, obviously desperate Dwayne Brown just there. Thankfully for them, he's there floating on the free agent market. But you move Fant over to the right, you insert Brown into the left. You look around the AFC East and you say to yourself, well, we could have had Teron Armstead too, because he's now in Miami. He could have been a big signing, but why would you do that when you've got Becton? And now there's obviously some question marks about his health. Do you expect possibly him to not be there come next season because of, 2 years down already, and he's only played like 6 or 7 games?
Yeah, I think it's gonna. I think the Becton pick is gonna wind up being a bust, because even when he does come back, is he really going? I think there's going to always be doubts. Is he really ever going to fulfill that first round pick potential? Maybe he winds up to be a solid NFL player, but I don't think he winds up being the franchise tackle that the Jets were expecting to build the line around, and all the draft picks that they've recently been putting into this line, which has desperately needed to improve for many years. And I think, again, great that they got Brown. I think this is the major part of the team that really needs to take a step up for them to really start building this year. Certainly with Flacco, with the injury to Wilson, if you have Flacco or White, certainly they more than anybody really need a proper offensive line, because they're a lot less mobile than Wilson is. So they're really going to need a really good offensive line for those game managers, and especially for their running attack, which is really, really dynamic if the offensive line can be able to create the holes for them. So that's the real one portion of the team that the Jets really need to start getting right. They've spent draft picks in there for them. They've got a good dynamic offense, especially in the running game, if the offensive line can step up. The defense, they've spent picks there, and of course they brought in a defensive coach in Szabo. You expect that defense to eventually start picking up, given the identity of the team. He wants to build it around defense, so you expect that side to really be coming into its own. They have building blocks in terms of their receivers with Berrios, with Davis, with some of the tight ends we've already mentioned. It's really that offensive line that's the key piece. Among all the other things for the Jets that really needs to develop. For Becton, we've always had these concerns ever since the draft was coming out about his weight, about how he could stay healthy. But the other side of the argument, the other side of the coin, if you will, was that, well, there's plenty of upside there. And are the Jets really going to wind up seeing that upside? They took the gamble, and they may have lost this one there.
I mean, how many more L's could they take? Now, let me ask you this question. And this is pretty much for all of you guys. Does Tevin Coleman's career die in New Jersey? Anyone want to take that, huh? Does Tevin Coleman's career die in Jersey? Hey, listen, he was a good fantasy player for many years in Atlanta. Yeah. Does it die, anybody? Come on, let's go.
He's way past that threshold. Most running backs fall off after 27. He's 29 years old now. Yep. But he's also the third string running back. So, he's going to have fresh legs all year, as fresh as he could have after having who knows how many carries over the course of his career. But, I think he's in a good spot for a guy like him where he can stay healthy, hopefully.
Yeah, you can throw him out there for third down every once in a while. Yeah, I considered him a receiving threat, all those years. You can get him out of the backfield for a swing pass, a la James White or whoever. That was definitely, you can utilize him. He's not every down, but.
We'll have to see what happens with the Jets, especially, too, with the emergence of Breece Hall and also, too, with that offensive line with numerous question marks over there heading into the 2022 season. Guys, let's move over to the defense of this Jets team. Sauce Gardner, Jordan Whitehead, the two acquisitions, one via the draft and the other via free agency. And of course, you also have LaMarcus Joyner still returning anyway. But Al, I got to ask you this. Is Nelson Agholor going to be Patriots legend Nelson Agholor going to be able to beat Sauce Gardner?
No, not Nelson Agholor. I heard Jacoby Myers maybe, and I heard he's having a really good camp. Nelson Agholor, I heard. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of bad things about him. More bad than good out of Nelson Agholor. So I'm gonna have to go with no for the time being.
Oh, John Smith. Again, this is a lot of people say that this is a dynamic draft class for starters, right? We heard it on preseason television where this could potentially be one of the best drafts since, I think, 2000, I believe it was, where it was Pennington. You can fill in the blanks that that are entering my brain.
This draft right here.
Yeah, exactly right. Nick Mangold as well. This looks really good, but is this the cornerback of the future? And dare I say, someone that wore number 24 for so many years, will he come close to that? Is it too early to tell? What have you heard and seen even in preseason?
Hey, that's what they've been saying, man. The guy didn't give up a single touchdown in college, and for the two preseason games, for what it's worth, he has gotten 0 targets his way because he's locking down everybody that's come up against him now. When the regular season starts, we'll see. They say he's more of a zone guy than a man guy, so maybe a guy like Diggs up in Buffalo might make him look silly or something. But I got my hopes up with him.
Well, it's very funny because you brought up about not giving up a touchdown, right? And I know this is going to go over Mike Szabo's head, but Al and John will be able to appreciate this. Back in 2011, the Philadelphia Eagles signed this guy that got pretty much 0 targets and whatever. They shut down corner. His name was Nnamdi Asomugha. So please, I beg you, John Smith, please, if this guy is getting 0 targets, God, just keep reminding yourself about what Eagles fans had to go through back in 2011 when he eventually got targeted and was blown away on multiple occasions.
They paid him a buttload of money too, didn't they?
Oh, they sure did. I remember that vividly. Yes, they absolutely destroyed that secondary about a year and a half later. Yes, and that was when, of course, the almighty Chip Kelly came in and made things better.
That was a fast offense. That was a fast offense.
That that my guy
Was that the
Nick
dream
Cole-
team?
That was Eagles legend Vince Young, excuse me, was at the helm there for a little bit. Yeah.
Every dream team needs a backup quarterback like Vince Young, so that's really what it comes down to.
It's very true. It's very true. But also now Jordan Whitehead too. He's a big addition, Mike, too, especially from Tampa Bay. And I know we brought this up with Evan Winter last week because that's a big loss in Tampa Bay's secondary, but a huge advantage in the Jets defense.
Well, they certainly get a guy who's a Super Bowl winner. Certainly the kind of culture that Saleh wants to bring to this team to, crawl them out of this, eternal rebuild, if you'll call it, or whatnot that's gone on with the Jets. And, you bring in a guy like Whitehead that can sort of quarterback your defense and be that leader there, especially for a lot of younger guys who have either, coming in just through this draft or through some recent drafts and whatnot. And, they look to a guy who's been there and done that recently with, the GOAT and Tom Brady on the other side of the ball there in his squad. So he's been there and won a Super Bowl, and he brings that experience, and that helps Saleh's culture and can really help develop the defensive identity with which he wants to build this team around for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll leave this with Al just to in case there's any final thoughts on the Jets before we move on to the ring team, if you will. Any final thoughts on the Jets? I
try not to think about the Jets. I honestly, it's just better things to do, Joe. Better things to do. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. You say they're there for now, and I like Robert Saleh. I watch him from time to time, but it's they're. And the division's getting tougher. Now Buffalo is great, and now I guess Tyreek is invading Miami, and it's Jets. I mean, it's not the AFC West. I'm not saying that, but it's we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's
getting more competitive.
Like Saleh, so.
Yeah, it's getting more competitive, and that definitely is a nice thing. Guys, let's keep on moving forward here. Let's go on to the New England Patriots because there's a lot to talk about. We have to dissect, obviously, the offseason following that 47-17 drudging that this Patriots team took against the Buffalo Bills. And that was back January 15th, 2022. Seems like a long, long time ago, a little over 7 months that happened. Joe Judge is now back. Matt Patricia is now back. Malcolm Butler was back. He's now on the injured reserve. Devontae Parker in. Mac Jones, and obviously we saved the best for last in terms of the conversation. Josh McDaniels is no longer the offensive coordinator, and now it's pretty much an offensive coordinator by committee type thing up in New England. And Josh McDaniels, where did he go? He's now the head coach in Las Vegas for the Raiders. And we know how the first stint for Josh McDaniels went in Denver, and it was an absolute atrocity. So who knows? Maybe this could be just as bad in Las Vegas, and he could be implanted again as the offensive coordinator in 2024. Who knows? Karl, you're number 2 of Mac Jones. Sophomore. He's now going to be a sophomore. He looked like a veteran. He went from Alabama being coached by the collegiate Bill Belichick to working with him in the NFL. And from Nick Saban to Bill Belichick, and now working with different coordinators, if you will, or different offensive coaches, or just different coaches. Do you expect a sophomore slump from him after now learning from a Joe Judge, from a Matt Patricia, from a Bill Belichick? And, from what we continue to hear is that the offense does look different.
No, yes, I expect him to progress. I expect him to be positive. What blows my mind with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, I don't know if you remember what their jobs were when they were with the Patriots beforehand, but one was a defensive coordinator, one was a special teams coach. Now one's running the offense, the other one's running the quarterbacks. I don't know. You got me on that one. I don't know what the hell. And Bill, I trust, I guess, but it's like one of those things like, where the hell? Like, the Giants offense. All right, so we put the guy who was in charge of Daniel Jones. Now he's in charge of Mac Jones. Great. And then we had the guy with the Detroit Lions. and they battled and they were okay, but it's just like, dude, like he's a defensive guy. Like, whatever. I don't know. And Belichick, I guess his kids are running the defense, which is fine. I know Nike's running the GM office. I emailed the dog about some quotes. He didn't really get back to me yet, but I get it. But as far as Mac goes, I think he's got to progress, and he's already been progressing. And rumors and speculation that I heard from Nike Belichick was that they didn't play that first preseason game because they were terrible the first string. They had nothing. They had a bad week going into the first preseason game, and all of a sudden they didn't play. I don't think Belichick wanted to parade him out there. Any of them, not even just Mac, but the offense in general. I don't think he wanted to parade him out there just to make this a speculation. Oh my God, Mac Jones went 1 of 6 with an interception in a preseason game, and New England blows up. So you see progressive. I read news articles the past couple days. While they're out there, Belichick's now coaching the Raiders too, because God knows Mcdaniels isn't going to do his own thing with Belichick. So it's, Belichick's out there running both squads, and it's, Mac Jones, again, the 2-minute drills up, the 2-minute drills tempo is going, and this is in tempo. And Jacoby Myers was at, I think, 5 consecutive contested passes reception. He caught. So Jacoby Myers is stepping up his game. And Kendrick Bourne was a little iffy. Now he's going up, and then Devontae Parker's doing well. So I think it already stumbled. I think it's already progressing, and I know, yes, training camp preseason, completely different animal than it will be on September 10th or whatever that Sunday is against Miami, but it's already progressing. So yes, I guess offensive coordinator Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are doing their job. Quarterback guru Joe Judge is gonna.
Giants coaching legend Joe Judge. Let's keep that in mind. That's right. Giants head coaching legend, as good, and Joe Judge can be put on the same pedestal as Bill Parcells.
No.
That is right.
And
John
Ray Handley.
Ray Handley.
John
Imagine
Smith.
that decision Ray Handley had. Right, you lose Phil Simms, and then you pick Costello. Kent Graham or Dave Brown. Like, how do you pick between poop and crap? Like, it's that poor guy. How do you let Phil Simms go though? Oh,
John Smith, it's crazy to see about this Patriots team, and last season, again it continued. The Patriots, they continued to just be no longer the class of the AFC East, but they're trying to get back into it. Obviously, for you as a Jets fan, obviously you don't want to see them do anything or Al have any more rings on his fingers. What do you see with this team here and a possible sophomore slump just because there's so many changes with Mac Jones?
It made me sick when they drafted him because I knew that he was going to be something special. And, not that the Jets should have taken him at number 2 or anything like that. I wasn't thinking that. But I just knew that coming from his situation, going to Belichick, it doesn't matter who's on that team. Belichick is running it, and Mac Jones will succeed in it. And, it all depends on basically the defense at that point. If the defense is good enough, they'll make the playoffs again. If not, we'll see. But, I have no doubt that Mac Jones is going to be, the future quarterback for the next dozen years for this team, because I don't think they would have taken him in the first round if they didn't think so.
Mike, you see obviously with this second year Mac Jones and after losing in the playoffs by 30 points, how much I'd say obviously no positives come out of that contest, with the exception of obviously some learning experiences that he and the entire new look Patriots team, and I know we're saying this now, but if you think about it, compared to a few years ago when they last made the Super Bowl, this is a completely different team. For this Pats team, what do you feel that they took out of that Buffalo wild card game?
Well, I think what they really took out of it is that they really need to up their game on defense, and that the NFL, they're not the feared team of the NFL right now. I think in general, a lot of guys took away a lot of learning experience in general. I think speaking to what you were saying before, and how hard it is, especially to win on the road. They went on the road there in the playoffs, in that playoff loss to Buffalo. On the road, Buffalo just steamrolled them after a couple of, I think they went up early, I think, New England in that game, and then eventually all fell apart. I think they just ran into a really good Buffalo buzzsaw that, I mean, they were really tight in the regular season, and Sean McDermott just figured out a way to really blow past them in that playoff game.
Yeah.
I think going forward, they took a lot of good learning experience, especially Jones himself, of how hard it is to win in the NFL consistently. And listen, we all thought, Brady leaves, this is going to be, become the New England Patriots are going to revert back to the franchise that they were before Brady came into the league and all that sort of stuff. Well, Belichick last year really, pushed back on all those claims. They wound up to be a really competitive team and made the playoffs once again. And that's really what I expect once again here in 2022. You look down the roster and whatnot, and there's not a lot of names that will come off the page, but certainly on the offensive end, they have a lot of pass catchers. And maybe there's not a lot, in terms of their numbers, a lot of clear wide receiver one, but they got a lot of guys that they could throw the ball to. And if everything goes right in terms of health and whatnot, they could have a really interesting offense. We really like the addition of Devontae Parker, who really seems like that prototypical Patriots kind of receiver, and certainly someone Bill looks to bring in later a little bit later on, or right in the prime of their career. And he sees something there that in his kind of team he can unlock. So I really like that addition of Devontae Parker. I think if he stays healthy, he can be a really good addition for the Patriots offense. But I think either way, Belichick always I think we've just seen now this last year and a half, he winds up figuring out a way to consistently turn out a winning product post Brady now. I think they're going to wind up to still be around a 500 or at least a 9-10 win team.
Al, I'm going to leave this with you and this one topic here. I know you do have a couple of things to show our audience as well, but I think something else too, to leave this part with you with the offensive side of things. We'll get to the offensive line juggles in a few short moments, but I think Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith as well, those two were brought in as well last season to, we saw what Jonnu Smith was capable of a couple of seasons ago with Tennessee, did not live up to that hype, was utilized differently in Josh McDaniels' offense, more of a blocking tight end where Hunter Henry was able to get out in open space. But now, do we expect possibly with the uncertainty of the wide receiver role right now, obviously you've got a wide out one, wide out two is pretty much there with Bourne and then with Jacoby Myers, thank you very much. And obviously, wide receiver, the greatest one ever, Nelson Aguilar, he's there. But, with that being said, obviously, all joking aside, can they get Jonnu Smith back to the way he was, or are they going to specifically use him as a blocking tight end? And how is Hunter Henry going to do? Again, this is really his first full healthy season as well. We know in San Diego and in LA, he was not healthy at all.
Now, if the game plan calls for Jonnu Smith, then Jonnu Smith will get the ball. That's pretty much it. It's game by game. It's one game it could be Jonnu Smith. The next game it could be Hunter Henry. I was watching NFL Network, and here they were at Patriots camp. Offensive game plan is about exploiting matchups with either slant routes by wide receivers, tight end matchups with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, or getting running backs out of space to maneuver. It's whatever the game plan calls for. If Jonnu Smith's job is to block against Team B, then he's going to be blocking that entire game. But if there's a linebacker that he can embarrass for 60 minutes, then they're going to just kill, boom, boom, and just kill it. That's the Belichick thing, and that's where it is successful. He's gonna take the weakness on defense and exploit it, and he's gonna take away your best weapon on offense. And all of a sudden it's a 10-on-10 and on defense, but that's it is. So They can, and they will. John Smith will have maybe 1 or 2 games with 100 yards and a touchdown, or 2 touchdowns, whatever it is. And Hunter Henry will do the same. But then you're going to have the games like against Buffalo Bills where the entire, Mac Jones is going to have 3 passes, and they're going to run the ball 45,000 times.
Yeah, and obviously for all of those fantasy players out there on the do not draft list this year, and do not fall into the same trap that I did last season, draft Jonnu Smith. Do not do that. That cannot happen. That cannot not ever happen. Yes, I know, Mike. I fell into that trap last season. That is no good. Guys, let's keep on moving forward here just for the sake of time. The defense for New England, and not only that, but really the team as a whole, taking some blows injury-wise. They also lost Jason Mccourty to retirement as well. That was another big deal.
He's doing a great job on Good Morning Football, though. He's filling in for Nate Burleson. He's doing a great job. He's got that, that very personal smile. He's a good guy to wake up and do a cup of coffee with. So,
exactly, yes. Him, Jamie Erdahl, a few others that are pretty good there as well. But Jason Mccourty, as Al did say, retired, moved on to TV. Jalen Mills, Eagles legend, absolutely terrible. And keep in mind, too, if it wasn't for Jalen Mills also potentially holding Julio Jones, the Eagles would have never won the Super Bowl. Keep that in mind. And then also Jabril Peppers as well. He comes in as safety help there, possibly behind Devin McCourty, which is a nice thing. But they also brought back old friend Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler's on the injured reserve. Jalen Mills is terrible. Jabril Peppers has been having some troubles when he was with the Giants, in the world's greatest defensive scheme a season ago with Patrick Graham, LOL. But it's a disaster because now this secondary, it looks as if, again, in training camp is beginning to, I don't want to call it fall apart, but it's not what we've typically seen what this secondary has been capable of for so many years.
Yeah. It's the defense I wasn't really concerned about, and that was one of the things that you said. I'm going to get to my graph. I'll just get to it now. I'm not trying to disregard your question here.
Of course, go ahead.
But it is about the defense, and I'll just show you what they did last year. Now, funny story, just sidebar real quick. A buddy of mine that I work with, he knows nothing about football, but he loves going to bars. He loves talking to strangers. And he's like, I really wish I knew how to talk about football. I'm like, okay, here are the 4 things about football where you can just strike up a conversation and the guy will talk your ear off. Got to run the ball more. Just say that. I got to run the ball more. Done. Got to get turnovers. There you go. Got it. Well, then you got to score touchdowns in the red zone. It's a little complicated. Got to get to the quarterback. So that's the thing. The secondary, obviously, it's important. But if you look at it from the defensive standpoint, and here we go, Patriots defense. Here we go. This is how they did last year with these 4 topics that get discussed more often than not, especially in the NFL Network. All right, their rush defense was 11th last year. That's pretty good. They were 3rd in turnovers. So they were balling. You say one about Jalen Mills. He was getting the ball right there. They were 2nd in the league. They couldn't score touchdowns on them. 19th in sacks. They had to get to the quarterback more. But I thought that, the defense last year, they pretty much did their job. I really can't say anything bad about them. They kept them in games, except for that Bills game. Like, they were on a mission that game. But then if you flip it and we go to the offense real quick. Oh, damn. Joe, it happened again. I'm sorry. I don't know who's doing this, Joe.
Oh, well, I figured that would be for later.
I'm sorry. I apologize about. I don't know who's been doing this thing. The offensive thing.
I think that was Brian Roy.
Yeah, Brian. It was Brian Roy and Beavis Reverence. They ran the ball last year. They had 2,100 yards. They were 8th in the league in rushing. 17th in turnovers. Max 23. In the parentheses, 23. That's how many turnovers they had in actuality. Max threw 13 of those. So I think he can do a better job protecting the football. Red zone percentage, they did scoring 62% of the time. They're in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, and they were almost dead last in sacks. Sacks against. So that's a good thing. That's where you want to be. They only let up 28 sacks. So they're protecting the offensive line, which I think is obviously we talked about with the Jets and everything. If your offensive line is everything, that is the lifeblood of the machine. If there's no offensive line, the machine falls apart. If there is an offensive line, you have a shot. So now going back to your question with the secondary, I think we can just avoid this. It looks like they were ball hawking. They were getting interceptions. They were getting turnovers. and they were stopping them. Belichick's got a very bend but don't break defense. As long as you're keeping them and holding them to at least 3 points, they're good.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, though, John Smith, is that, going up against this tough Patriots secondary that at one point was tough, but now have sustained a ton of injuries. I don't know when the Jets play the Pats, but, this is something that, again, we don't want to get anyone's hopes up with, Jets fans or anything along those lines. But, all joking aside, though, for the Patriots secondary that, again, we can name so many players that have been so vital to their success. Obviously, you brought up one in Patriots legend Darrelle Revis, in Asante Samuel so long ago. Again, this is a secondary that, do you think, just by looking at him now, are they vulnerable with the Malcolm Butler injured reserve, with him on injured reserve, and Jalen Mills right now is the cornerback one? LOL.
The way I see it, though, I feel like that just the way that Belichick runs his team, it's just like the next man up mentality. I think, maybe they won't be able to replace Butler with one man, but everybody else picking up a little bit of the slack is going to be how it goes over there.
Kyle Duggar.
Just remember, they're always cheating too, so you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They might have rockets in their shoes now. They might have helium in their ball so they can throw it an extra 40 yards. You never know.
Well, Mike, your final thought on the Pats.
I missed one.
Yeah, I think just going back to what I was saying before, I think no matter what, I think Belichick has shown post Brady that this is always going to be a competitive group. I think Al said it perfectly. They have a bend don't break sort of defense. They have a generally pretty competent offensive line that's going to protect Mac Jones, and they have plenty of really good pass catchers. There's not one that stands out, but I think there's going to be a lot of guys that has the potential to really establish that role if they do so, depending on their performance. And they got a lot of guys that can exploit certain matchups, as we were saying. I think one way or another, like I said, I think Belichick has found a way, life after Brady, to put together a consistently good product. And I think this is between an 8 to 10 win team this year.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something else. Well, now just because, again, we got to wrap this up because we do have our next guest, Mike Masala, waiting in the other studio. Karl, I got to ask you, because it looks as if that you do have something in terms of your AFC East predictions.
Yes.
I need to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Pats, the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins? Where do they stand? Go ahead.
Okay, it's really no-brainer for me. We're having fun with this. The Patriots are going to be, there's bend. Okay, now we're going 17-0. This is easy. All right. The Bills are good. I'll give the Bills a lot of credit. The Bills are good. They'll be 15-2. The Dolphins, they'll get 2 wins against the Jets. I did look at the Jets. I had the Jets down at 0-17, but I think it's closer look at their schedule. They are playing the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They might be able to get a draw. They might be able to get a no contest or a tie, whatever, against one of those two teams. I think it'll be against Jacksonville, Joe. I mean, I can't wait to come on again. It's going to be week 4 at the end of September, and you're going to ask that who's the best 0-3 team in football, and I'm going to wave that Detroit Lions flag again this year for the second year in a row with Jared Goff. But yeah, I don't know.
Field goal hits the double doink and everything.
Yeah, the Jets updated their logo, it looks like. I don't know if anyone saw that.
Hey, we're starting 2-0 this year, all right? Flacco's going to win his revenge game, and then we got the Deshaun Watson-less Browns right after that. So you can take those predictions and shove them, Alfred.
John Smith, let's finish this up. 1 through 4. Who do you got in the AFC East?
Bills, Patriots, Jets, Dolphins. I don't see I like the 8 to 10 thing with that Mike mentioned with the Patriots, more towards the 10 side. I think they're gonna make a wild card again. Bills should get about 12 or 13 wins. Jets, I'm thinking 6 or 7. I think we're going to do pretty well this year because we got all the pieces. We just don't have the quarterback. And then Tua's not going to be able to throw that ball to Tyreek down the field. So how the hell are they going to win very many games? You know,
that is very true. It's probably going to have to be Teddy Bridgewater who will probably have to do that on one bum leg. Well, lady,
they should go grab Ryan Fitzpatrick.
That is true. Fitz magic, always Fitz magic. How can you say no to that? Mike, of course, in the we will get your predictions and my predictions later on in our episode number 96 broadcast. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, let us make sure that we let everyone know about the Essential Wrestling Podcast, which next week, the 30th, is going to be episode number 116, if my math is correct, Carl.
Yeah.
And be sure to subscribe to the Essential Wrestling Podcast presented to you by ProWrestlingPick'em.com on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, and YouTube by searching the Eastern Observer. It is going to be tons of fun. Al, John, thank you both so much. Al, any last words?
Yeah, I had two. First one about these on this Tuesday's show, the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Labor Day weekend is a huge weekend in wrestling. It turned out to be, this is gonna be good. Okay, this is gonna be really good, and then it just blew up as of last week. So we have 3 shows that we got to pick on Tuesday with myself, John Smith, John DeConnie, Gary Mahaffey. We had a huge war between John Smith's NXT and Gary Mahaffey, NXT UK overseas from Northern Ireland. They fight all the time. Their squads are going at it next Sunday afternoon on Labor Day weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Joe, I did run. I got it. BS here. One last one. I do have to get going though. It's our favorite time of year, Joe. Little League World Series is on.
That is true. That is very true.
World Series is on.
That is very true. Al watches it. I watch it. We all watch it. We all
watch it. I got a bowl of Frosted Flakes waiting for me upstairs to watch the Little League World Series. I'm excited.
That is so good. I'm happy to hear that. Ladies and gentlemen, for Al, Karl, John Smith, Mike Szabo, myself, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We will see you all in a few short moments with the Dolphins Wires, Mike Masala.